Hello everyone. Welcome to the object-oriented programming section of this JavaScript chapter that we are discussing. So what is object-oriented programming? All modern languages like Python, C++, Java, all the current languages are called object-oriented programming languages. Prior to that, the languages what is developed prior to that are different languages like structured programming languages, function-oriented programming languages. But all modern languages are called object-oriented programming language because it works based on the concept called object. Okay, so before knowing what is object, first you have to know what is class because if you understand class, then it will be easy for you to understand what is object and what are the other components. Just consider the real world example called like let's say that animal is the general category, okay, and dog is very specific. Okay, so you can say animal as a class and dog as object. When you say animal, it is general. It doesn't specifically say anything. You cannot say any particular thing as an animal. You can say dog, cat, or squirrel like that. You can specify different animal, but animal is the general word. Okay, general word that that specifies some category, right? So similarly, animal is like class. Animal is, you can say that is class, and dog you can say as an object because it is a real world entity. But dog that comes under the animal category, like it can have four legs, it has the life, it can walk, it can run. So all the things that animal category can do, that applies to dog as well. So this is the simple example that can help you to understand what is class and what is object. So it is, you can say animal is the class and dog is object. So if I can explain it in programming term, I can say there are different kind of data types are than in programming, right? Integer means whole number. Okay, integer means 10, and floating point means decimal point. Okay, so for example 10.10. And string means characters. Okay, for example, hi, it's a string. So that should be string. So in programming, the data types will be of different types like integer, floating point, and then string. So these categories you can say as class. Actual value will be object. Like how this object will take this particular data type, like that class will take like how the dog that take the category of animal, like that. So now you should get a full understanding of what is class and what is object. So class is like a category, and the object is the real world entity. Okay, so with this understanding, if you proceed further, let me explain what is class. So the class is a blueprint of an object. It's not a real world entity. For example, if you're going to build a house, the real house which is built on the blueprint are called object. But the blueprint, you're just using it to build the house, that is called class. So it is not a class, is not a real world entity, like how the blueprint is not a real home. Blueprint is just a design. Based on the design, you are building the real home, which is called object. Now let's come to the more real world entity. For example, you're creating a class for a bank. Okay, you're writing a program for a bank to credit and to debit and to get balance. These are the functionalities that you want to do with that program. So in this case, you are creating a class. Okay, you're going to design it based on the object-oriented programming concept. You're writing it in Java, Python, let's say. So that first you will create a class. The class, you name it that class as bank account. Remember, the class is just a blueprint. Okay, So it may have something like the name of the person who is account holder and the account ID. So these kind of the things can be there inside the account. These are called variable. And using that account name and number is associated with that, the methods that you can use, you can credit some amount to that account, you can debit some amount from the account, and then you can get the balance. These are the methodology that you can associate with that. Okay, so you're just designing a blueprint. This class is going to have a variable called account name, account number, and these things, these are called variables. Okay, and you can do some functions like putting some amount, getting some amount, getting balance. These are the methods. So you're just designing a blueprint that is called class. Based on the blueprint, now we will create the real world account. This is Joe's account. This is Mary's account. This is John's account. All these are called object because these are real world entity that is built based on this bank account class. So now these real world entities will have the same variables like account name, account number, and credit, debit, get balance methods will be there. That will exactly follow the same blueprint. Okay, so concept called class and object. Okay, so now I explained you there's something called the what will be there inside the blueprint. That is the account name, account number. These are called parameters. Okay, the variables. Okay, and what you can do with that variables, get balance, credit, and debit. So these are the functionalities that you can do with that class. Okay, so that is called method. So class is nothing but, maybe I will explain it in. So class is nothing but you can consider that as a capsule which has some data and a functionality that you can do along with the data. Functionality that you can do along with the data. This whole package is called class. So you can consider that as a capsule. Some data and what you can do with the data. For example, if the data is X and Y. And what you can do with the data is add and subtract. Okay, so the X can be 10, variable you can have some 10, and Y can be 5. So what you can do with this data, add X plus Y, 10 plus 5 is 50, and subtract 10 minus 5, 5. So what you can do with the data, that is functionality. So this data and function is tied together in a class. So to use this class function, you have to use only this method. Okay, so using this data to do some function is called, that is tying it together. This concept is called class. Okay, so the method, the function that you can do with the class is called methods, and what you can do, the data is called property. The data that is associated with the class is called property. Okay, so this property and method. So normally, if it is not associated with the class, you will say it is variable. But if it is associated with the class, then you will say it is property. If the function is not associated with the class, you will say the term function, but if it is associated in the class like a package, then you will say the term method. Okay, so you will understand these things in detail in your Python when you learn Python. Okay, but just you're getting introduced, so don't get deeper into that. Just be familiar with the terms like functions, method, procedures, properties, all those things. Just be familiar with this term. That is the main intention. Okay, so now we are just going to I'm just going to introduce you to few things that you will use very often in this basics of JavaScript. It's called document.write. Okay, so I told you everything is object-oriented programming. So the object will have property and method. Method is nothing but function. Okay, so document is the object which is already, when you see the object, method, anything, there can be two types. One is already written by someone, which is built in, and one is you can use it. The developer can develop it. That is called user defined. Okay, so mostly in this class for the basics of web design, you will just use the functions which is already written by someone, the objects which is already designed by, which is already there. Okay, so the document is the object which is already there, which has hundreds of built-in methods available, which has its own purpose. For example, write is one of those methods which will help us to write anything in the web page. So that write method belongs to the object called document. The write method belongs to the object called document. So in the object-oriented programming, when you use this method or property that belongs to the object, you will use dot operator. Object name dot operator function name. So you don't need to go deeper into that. Just be familiar with these things. Okay. So object dot function. That function that you are going to use is write. This write function belongs to the object document. So you're just referring that as document dot write, and the purpose of that will is going to be, it will write something in the website. Okay. So for example, as I told you, JavaScript is integrated in any browser that you're using, Google or Internet Explorer. JavaScript IDE is integrated in any browser. To access it in Google, you have to simply go to the page and simply type Control-Shift-J all together. If you type Control-Shift-J all together, it will open up the JavaScript console for you. Okay. So as I told you, JavaScript has a lot of built-in objects. So document is one of those objects. So if you type document dot operator, then it will give you a lot of methods that comes, built-in methods that is available as part of this object like that. So you can see a lot of methods available. I'm going to use this write function. Okay, document dot write. Some method available. Okay, so whatever I put inside this document.write, it will, you can see I have already written this code. Okay, so document.write, whatever where I put document, or wherever I put document.write, it will just put it inside the web page. You can see what happens. Speech at the Berlin Wall, it appears here. If you know, you can interpret H1. Since it is in H1, it is in the you can see as a headline, and then as a paragraph. Okay, then it is variable, whatever I can see here in speaker, I have assigned this, and whenever I can use this variable, that will, by just specifying the speaker, this speaker will replace whatever assigned with this, that will be replaced here. So here I'm saying document.write speaker. So this speaker will replace this John F. Kennedy here, and the date variable will replace the date here. Okay, so this is the functionality of document.write. It will simply put everything in the web page. Okay, so the function, write function, which is in the object document, will put everything together in the web page. That is the functionality which is written by someone. You're simply using it because it is built-in methodology, built-in methods. Okay, so that is the functionality of document.write function. Okay, so in this video tutorial, you learned about object-oriented programming. Object is nothing but a real-world entity of the blueprint called our class, and object has lot of methods and properties associated. So you can simply consider that as a package which combines the data and method together. Okay, and method can be two types: user-defined and built-in. And write is, there are hundreds of built-in methods are available, just with as the example that I have shown. Write is the built-in method, like that user can define their own method. So when you learn the advanced programming languages, you will get to know how to define your own languages. But right now you're going to simply use the methods which is already defined by someone. Okay, so all you need to focus right now is this document.write method, which will help you to write something in the web page, okay, using JavaScript coding. Okay, next you're going to learn about events. See you in the next video. Thank you.